So one of the quotes, comparing with celebs is killing your self-esteem and confidence.
Bro, you got to say that one again. You got to say it again.
And
Seriously. And he's such a positive predisposition. Like, he just don't care about, not like he doesn't care, but he's just always like, yeah, bro, like, what do you mean? We're rich. Like, we're already rich. That's what he'll say stuff. And I'm like, wow, you know what? It's true.
we as humans feel way more pain when we lose something as opposed to joy than when we gain something.
It was a skill stacking
Okay,
framework or skill stacking.
yes.
And when I read this, I was like, no, this is nuts. Like, this is sick.
Welcome back to another episode of Book Reviews with Ty and Fly. I go by Ty.
Yo, Mr. Fly, what's going on?
So this month we have Happy Sexy Millionaire by Mr. Stephen Bartlett. This is our book of the month. Mr. Fly chose this book. Firstly, do you want to kickstart us off and tell us why you picked that book for us?
Yeah, man. I mean, Stephen Bartlett is just a G, man. Someone that I came across a couple of years ago via his podcast, Diary of a CEO. And I enjoyed some. I do subscribe to that. I watch it. I just like what he's about. Very successful person, very humble person, very kind of, for lack of a better word, like woke person in the sense of like very aware and just a real one, man. Not someone that's kind of materialistic and he's very super successful, but this comes across very humble. Someone that's quite relatable. You know, his mum's Nigerian, so I could relate to him on that part. And yeah, man, he's just a good guy. And I think from watching I watch a lot of his podcasts. And when I found that he'd written a book, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to read the book. I want to read it. So, yeah, it's a good guy, man. Good book. That's the podcast. That's it. Yeah.
Start off and just say, good pick. Good pick.
He reminds me, in a weird way, yeah, you have similar qualities to him, I feel.
Okay.
Like when I watch him talk, because I watch his interviews quite a lot, and I think I've mostly said this to you off camera, like. He reminds me of you. You remind me of him, or you have similar sort of characteristics. Yeah. No, thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. No, I mean, I am my own man, innit?
No. You get what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, man. Stephen Bartlett's a G, and I mean, I'm grateful to be compared to him, man, because I'm going to be there one day. But in fact, that's a good way to kickstart what we're going to talk about, because he actually speaks about, the chase and the hustle and, how he thought, being a sexy millionaire, the man with the cars, the money, everything would make him happy. And he humbly writes in the book, he's like, when you have money, you realize that actually just having money isn't the thing that makes you happy. And I think that is a really important and great message. Of course, money makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways, but he talks about how, the chase for money alone didn't make him happy. Yeah.
I think with that as well, the title of the book, because that kind of, I was like, this is such a random title, Happy Sexy Millionaire, you know what I'm saying? But then I think there was a girl he was trying to impress in school when he was 14. That's what I also liked about it. I like these type of books that are semi-autobiographical. I mean, similar to like Can't Hurt Me, where they talk about their life experiences mixed in with what they're trying to get across. So this talks a lot about his life, but then about business and whatnot. So it's semi-autobiographical. But yeah, so he set that ambition when he was 14 to try and impress a girl. The girl's named Jasmine, so she must know by now. She inspired him to do this. But then, obviously, as he got older, his aspirations changed. But he was, like you said, the chase. So when he achieved that, he was a millionaire. But was he happy?
Yeah. No, there's lots of things that we can dive into, and in fact, I want to start off by one of my favorite words. The loyal subscribers know many of my favorite words, but one of them is gratitude.
Yeah.
And he talks a lot about gratitude. And this is something that I resonate with so strongly, because I feel it's so important to be grateful in life in general and just acknowledge things to be grateful for. And he mentioned selling his company.
Yeah.
When he sold his company, I think it was, what was it, 100 million or something?
It went
or
Well, there's two. I
300.
think when it went onto the stock market,
So
when he became,
whatever. Um, he sold his company for a ridiculous amount of money. Let's just say that. And when he sold it, he had all these millions. That didn't make him happy. That didn't that didn't fulfill him at that moment in time. Whereas when he relates back to a time when he was poor, when he was going in takeaway shops, going down the back of the chairs to look for money.
okay, I got you.
Going down the back of chairs to look for money just so he could get enough money to buy food. He was ecstatic when he found £13.40, and he knew that money was going to pay for his food for the next few days, and he was ecstatic at that moment in time. But when he had his millions, he didn't feel that same joy. And I think that was one of the many great messages in this book.
Yeah, I think so with that, what happened was he left home quite young, and I think he was homeless for a period of time. So then he basically was hustling, trying to get money. So he was going into getting money, like you said, from the back of the couches or back of chairs in restaurants. Then what it was when he listed his company got listed on the stock market for 200 million. So that was the comparison that he realized he was happier when he listed his company. Sorry, when he found that £13.40, like you said. But then he didn't become happy. I think he called his business partner at the time, and they both felt kind of empty. But then it was when he started the gratitude, thinking of the journey and being grateful for, what it took to get to this point. That's when he started feeling happy and feeling those positive emotions. So that was the contrast. And it's like, it's crazy when you think now, I think, if you think about it, like, well, how can £13.40 make you happier than 200, than listing your company for 200 million?
Yeah.
But it just kind of goes to show that it's more about, it's relevant, because that £13.40 had a real impact at that time versus the 200 minutes. Like, again, when you achieve something significant, I think we've all been there. Everyone can relate to this. Like, when you achieve something significant, you're like, okay, well, I've done it now. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of empty feeling, like, raw, like, okay, especially like myself, I've got lists, and I'm like, okay, you kind of always think, oh, once I hit this and once I do this, I'm there, and it talks about this in the book a lot, and I think it's something that definitely I can relate to. And, it goes back to those kind of sayings where it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's about the person you become on the way. And then you start to feel the gratitude. And that reminds me of, like, with David Goggins' book as well, something similar to that, the chase, that I think everyone can relate to, man. Definitely if you're ambitious.
Yeah. And that goes on to a nice segue, in fact, to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in fact, I'm going to grab the book to get the diagram on it. But in fact, one of the great things about this book, I'm sure you loved it, is the use of diagrams when they were when they were needed in the book. But basically, it talks about this pyramid. And the first concept we all have in life is fulfilling our physiological needs. So in that instance where he was found at £13.40, he was feeling the fact that he could survive. The first instinct for all of us is to survive. Once we are able to survive, we're living, we've got food, we've got shelter, etc. The next stage is then safety. So we don't even have to worry about our, eating, our, living and stuff like that. So obviously people do have to, but I'm talking about this in stages. After you've, let's say, completed that stage, and you've got your house or whatever, the next stage is safety. We need to be safe. So do I live in a safe neighborhood? Are people around me safe? So that's the next need for us. And then after that, we then start to look for love and belonging. Once we are, our physiological needs are met and we're safe, then we start looking for love. Now, this is actually a good point to raise, because some people, when they don't even have, they're not in a position that they want to be in themselves. And I actually find this with a lot of guys. They don't necessarily want to look for love until they feel that they are satisfied in their own physiological needs, that they've got they've got their house sorted, they got you know, they got their
Mhm.
finances sorted, they got their
Mhm.
safety sorted, and then, like I said, the next stage is love. And then it goes on to esteem and then self-actualization. But I thought this hierarchy, the use of diagram, was fantastic in explaining our
Mhm.
needs as human beings, because you know the first human instinct we need is to survive,
Yeah,
is to
yeah.
eat, to live. So I love that. And just to quickly touch on the gratitude point again, is every now and then in this book, he drops some banging quotes, like at
Yeah,
the end of a chapter or whatever. And one of the quotes he says, "Life has a funny way of giving grateful people more things
yeah,
to be grateful for." And I wholeheartedly believe this. When you practice gratitude and you're grateful for things, you start to be more grateful for other things. You start to acknowledge other things. And
yeah.
as the quote says, life has a funny way of giving grateful people more things to be grateful for. And yeah, man, I love that. And that even gives me a little bit of chills.
You know, it's funny because yeah, that was chapter 5. I think the
Yeah.
chapter is called Fire Your Mind. So it talks about, I think he calls your mind the CEO, and where we're always, you know, comparing and what you value and what you don't value. It's very hard to, and especially, you know, it's interesting because I feel like for him, he must feel some type of contradiction sometimes because he has obviously made his money through marketing. And then even he says, like in the book, marketing is geared at making you feel that you don't have enough, you're not enough, so that you need to buy this product that will complete you and make you enough. And you know, and that social media is a perfect example of that. The whole celebrity culture is a perfect example of that. So when we're growing up in this kind of environment that we feel like, oh, I just need these kicks or this watch or this car or whatever it might be to complete me, you're kind of not really looking at that you're complete, you know. And that's how he actually finishes the book, like, you know, you are enough, whatnot. So, and it's hard to be grateful, it's hard to feel gratitude in those moments when you feel as though you don't have what you need, or you feel like you're trying to achieve that survival or whatnot. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah, no, we've got, there's always something to be grateful for, and
Yeah.
it's you know, your perspective's important to have that
Yeah.
right perspective. But it's so hard when you're bombarded by messages all the time that you don't have enough money, or you don't have enough holidays, you've not gone on holiday enough, or you're not, wherever it might be, you don't have your partner. And it's weird with this book because, you know, the chapters, they do follow on, but they're also kind of like individual. I feel like, do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, I never felt like it was stages. The
Yeah.
last chapter definitely was like, felt like it was a crescendo. Like, all right, it's all been leading to this moment. But besides that, I feel like the chapters kind of could have just gone. Some did follow on from others,
Yeah.
but they were individual. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. They could have been read. They could have been in a different order,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
theory.
Besides maybe the beginning, obviously he talked about, he introduced himself and talked about himself and
Yeah.
whatnot. But overall, I feel like they were just, you know, there was an interesting thing he put about, like, it was called "Stop Keeping Up with the Kardashians," which is, you know,
Yes.
and again, it's like he talks about what's her name, Kylie Jenner, and how, you know, all the followers she has, X Y Z. But then he was like, on the flip side, let's imagine a girl out there who's called Jenna Kylie, who's the total opposite. Now, when she's looking at Kylie Jenner, she will be feeling inferior to her, you know. And again, that's like the impacts of social media and the impacts of celebrity culture, which I think is very dangerous. So it's like, it was just an interesting perspective to feel like, and I feel like, all right, cool, not everyone's got all those followers that Kylie Jenner has, but at the same time, you got to be kind of responsible as to how you use, even like yourself, myself, people, whatnot. You know, we have to, one, be aware of how your messages you put out there impact other people, but then also be aware to realize that, you know, which we all know, and I think everyone knows this logically, that what you see on social media isn't real. Like
Yeah.
99% isn't real, it's contrived. But at the same time, logically we understand that, but emotionally as well, not to, emotionally it's harder to take that in, because, you know, you kind of look at it and we compare ourselves, you know. That's, again, there's another part in the book where there's a comparison with the seeking mind, you know, where it's like you're always comparing yourself, like, oh, okay, am I doing better than this person, am I doing better than myself, is
Mm-hmm.
that person doing better than me, am I ahead from where I was versus last year, you know. The last thing I'll say about this is, I think they did a study on billionaires, and this is
Yes.
crazy. Like, when I saw this, and I was like, they they did a questionnaire on a survey on a certain amount of billionaires. It was like, okay, what would it, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? And whatever number they said, they were like, okay, so what would it take you to be happier? To get yourself from an 8 to a 10 or a 6 to an 8 or whatever it might be. And they said, I think like, oh, just 10 more billion or 10 more million would put me there. And it's just like, what? You know what I'm saying? It's like
the exact thing I think it was is rich people feel they'll be happier with 2 to 3 times more than what they actually have.
Yeah.
So someone with 10 million would be happy if they got 20 or 30 million.
That was a study done by Harvard Business School professor Michael Norton. So yeah, they did 2,000 people with a net worth of $1 million. That was it. So it just goes to show, and that's what we need to realize. You need to kind of reevaluate your metrics, I think, of what makes you happy. Because, you know, we've both been moderately successful. We've been successful in what we're doing. And I think you very quickly realize that it doesn't really, that's not gonna do it. Like there's no, oh yes, I've done it now, tick that off, and now here I am, I'm happy. It's a consistent journey thing. It's not a one-off thing, you know. It's funny enough, with myself, I had like 3 targets that I had, and I wrote these. I looked back on it the other day, and they were, one was to give myself a full-time salary from FFLY Youth, which I've done. The other was to get married, obviously, which I've done now, and then the third was to buy a property, which I'm very close to doing. But I was like, rah, okay, I feel the same now than I felt when I wrote it. Like, do you know what I mean? I was saying about this with my wife the other day, like, and I was like, oh, I feel the same. So it's like, you know, I've ticked these off, and I remember writing them thinking, like, oh, bro, once a man does this, level up. You know what I'm saying? Level up. So it's just interesting, man. It's so interesting.
It is. It really is interesting. And so one of the quotes, comparing with celebs is killing your self-esteem and confidence.
Bro, you've got to say that one again. You've got to say it again. Seriously.
Comparing yourself with celebs is killing your self-esteem and confidence. And like you said, people putting stuff on social media, it's not real. And even if it is real in the celebs world, you know, maybe they do look a certain way. Maybe they do have these lavish experiences, etc. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're happy. It doesn't necessarily make them it doesn't make them better than anyone. They're just living a certain lifestyle. And I think we compare so much, and social media is fantastic in many ways, but this is one of the ways that it can be really harmful and damaging.
Toxic.
So I think this takes me back to the gratitude is kind of being grateful for what we have. And there was a term that he spoke about called negative visualization. And we as humans feel way more pain when we lose something as opposed to joy than when we gain something. So negative visualization is visualizing the loss of something that you have something that you currently have. And that can really help you to be grateful for. So visualizing, what if I didn't have food to eat tonight? You know, what if I didn't have my bed? What if I didn't have a car to get to where I need to? You might be like, oh, I need to upgrade my car. I need to get a better car. But actually, looking at it the other way, what if you didn't even have a car? For those that do have a car. But that's just an example. And when we visualize the loss of something or visualize ourselves without something, it makes us appreciate that we have it. And I mean, you can go as deep as you like with this, but I think you even mentioned, you know, looking gratitude when we talk about our family, you know. There'll be a time, sadly, at some point later down in our life when we won't have all the family around us that we have now. And it's like, we need to appreciate them now in this moment and this time while everyone's still on the planet. And when we actually visualize that and think about, wow, what about, you know, when they're not here? I mean, it can actually make us a little bit sad in the moment, but also grateful, because we're like, no, actually, I need to go and see my mom, my dad, my gran, or whoever. I just really like the term negative visualization because it just helps us remember my life's okay. You
Yeah,
know, we're
that's
we're
the
we're doing all right.
bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's so real what you just said, because I think even like when you're, I've got like, you know, we're positive people. Like, you're definitely positive, one of my positive friends, and I've got other friends as well. And it's like, I was speaking with one of my friends recently, and he was like, well, you know what? When things are going wrong, he just thinks to himself like, "Raw, are my kids safe? Like, my
Yeah.
kids are cool. My kids are good. He's got 2 kids. So, bro, then I'm all right. My kids are good. He don't like, he go boom. That's it. Like, are my kids cool? That's it. Then everything. It don't matter what happened. You know. Then I've got another friend as well, and he wasn't born in this country. So I've only, the older I've got, the more this has become. I'm realizing this. His perspective is different from mine, because he's seen another world. He's actually lived and grew up in another world. Like, I've grown up in England, so he's came to England, I think, when he was like 10 or 12. So he's done like 10 years in another country, and he's such a positive predisposition. Like, he just don't care about, not like he doesn't care, but he's just always like, yeah, bro, like, what do you mean we're rich? Like, we're already rich. That's what he'll say stuff, and I'm like, wow, you know what? It's true. Then when you look at it, we sit here and we compare ourselves and we think this and that. The fact that I think to myself sometimes, I get to sleep in a house. I get to put
Mm,
my head on a pillow at night.
yeah.
That's so, like, even that, I get to be warm at night. I can sleep comfortably in a bed. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? You got, it's true. Like, I get to have breakfast. I can have breakfast in the morning. Even the fact that we're talking through, we have a phone, puts us ahead of so many people. Not on
Yeah.
a comparison tip, but like, this is what you have to be grateful for. And sometimes you gotta just take it down to those simple things. Like you said, I can call my mum and say, "Hey, mum, how's your day going?" My brother can call, or I can. Do you know what I mean? So it's you gotta be. It's a consistent practice. You know,
Hmm.
again, it's not something you just sit down. To be fair, because of you, it's like where I've just learned to be more grateful for things, the little things we take for granted. Like,
Yeah.
I get to, at least I get to, even if I take it L, I get to go again. Like, I can go again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it's there's always there. You got to look for it. Sometimes it's not as obvious as other times, but it's still there. You just got to look for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Stephen Bartlett's, whole disposition is about being grateful. And he's
Yeah.
learned that over the years through his business journey to be
Mm,
grateful and
yeah.
appreciate the things that he's currently got and live for the present. Yeah. And he actually talks about creating your passion. And you've got a beautiful
Yeah.
phrase, um, passion over profits.
Bap, bap,
Of
bap.
course, we all want money to live and survive. But Stephen Bartlett puts a framework for, finding
Yeah.
your passion and finding your
Yeah.
business, or if you
Mm-hmm.
are on a business or if you want to work. But these are 5 points and they are engaging work. So doing something engaging, something that keeps you, engaged. Work that helps others. There was a nice quote. He said, a survey actually, a global survey found that those who help others the most are as satisfied with their lives as those who earn twice as much. Um, so let me just say that again. Those who help others for a living are as satisfied as those who earn twice as much money as them. And before I go to the other 3 points, I just wanted to touch on the Prince's Trust charity, because the loyal subscribers will know that I've had help and support and guidance through the trust
The
with
face.
my business. Say that again.
The face that runs the
The
place.
face, the face that runs the place. Yeah. But the salaries in that job role are not very high. The people that work there, their salaries are not amazing. But the people that I've met that work there are so proud and passionate about the work that they do, because they know it helps others so much. And both of us, I think we can both relate highly to this point, because both of our businesses are tailored around helping others. And that's one of the things that I love about my work that I do. So anyway, not to stick on that point, let's go on to the other 3. Do what you're good at.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to work in something that you're good at, or that you can learn to be good at.
Yeah.
Don't work with a-holes.
Oh,
And
bro.
in fact, working I don't know if I wrote down statistics on this, but working with you know, a horrible boss or horrible colleagues is just so detrimental. Did you want to add something onto that?
No, I disagree with it. I did want
Yeah.
to quickly just add something on the previous one you said. So,
Do what you're good at.
work that helps others. No, work that helps others,
Okay.
and be yourself. Don't copy others. So, this is when the more you get into this kind of things, and you get interested in learning about the kind of science behind things, or how the brain reacts, how the body reacts. So, interesting thing. This called a helper's high. So, giving acts of kindness produces a natural mind version of morphine, a morphine high in the brain. So people who volunteer are less depressed and healthier than those that don't volunteer. So this is actually physiological. It's not just like there's a reason for this. So like when you say before, like I think I've heard you say it before, like giving is a selfish act or something like that, in the sense of like you get something out of it. So it's not just like volunteer to help other people. There's if you volunteer, your brain will create that chemical, and you will actually feel better. You'll get that high. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's why it feels good. So that's another thing. So it's just interesting to know that it's more than just all the other factors you get from it. It's actually you're doing it because you intrinsically want to do it, and it feels good to do it. You see what I mean? But also, just don't work with a-holes, man. I mean, you can't add.
I mean, we don't need to even dive into that one, right?
Yeah.
Just don't work with a-holes. And work-life harmony. I like the use of the word harmony instead of work-life balance, because some people, will say work-life balance in terms of, work 9 to 5 and then, go in the evening and go and do whatever else. But work-life harmony, I think if you enjoy what you do, then working longer times or doing things, in the evening, if you're at peace with that, then that's fine. If you're in a stressful job role and, it's you don't enjoy it, then that's when, you need to, you might use the term balance. But work-life harmony, I thought, those 5 points, beautiful. Mwah.
No, I think, that's about, because, we spoke about this. So my kind of, the phrase that I coined, passion over profits. And we spoke about passion off camera. And it's like the whole thing now, a lot of things now is like, find your passion. It's quite toxic because it's, even if you're, I work with a lot of young people, and it's such a loaded kind of phrase, because what if they don't know what their passion is? What if they don't know? Do you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, oh, you should intrinsically just know, oh yeah, my passion is this, so I love working with animals, so da-da-da. Some people don't know what it is. And I think as well, your passions change over time. I think even, creating your passion, your passions actually change over time. And then I think we're in a culture now that is like, you should just know what your passion is, or your passion should be this, 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 and this. Like, it should be like an easy framework that you can just quickly dial into, like, oh yeah, well, my passion is this. So it took me maybe like 35 years to kind of really realize and understand not even realize, but understand what my passion is. Yeah. And also that I have more than one passion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not just, yes, I like working with young people. I also like business. I also like health and fitness. These are all things I'm passionate about. Family. There's so many different things. There's not just like one thing. And I think when you kind of put that on someone like, oh, well, just you should know what your passion is, or your passion is this, or it should be that, it's quite loaded. And that can lead to people feeling like, oh, why don't, then you start feeling insignificant. And then again, going back to the comparing mind, well, oh, Tyler knows what his passion is. How comes I don't know what mine is? Yeah. Or how comes I should know what my passion should be this, or it should be that. So it's, and also being aware that it can change over time. We change, we grow, we change. Things that we were interested in when we were, like, for example, using Steve Bartlett as an example, at 14, his ambition was to become a happy, sexy millionaire. By the time he was 28, or however old he was at the time, his ambition had changed. And sometimes I think we kind of feel that we have to hold ourselves accountable to what we said 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, where you said that with a much different perspective. You were in a different place in your life. You weren't as wise as you are now. So why would you necessarily, people change over time. Change is growth.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, man. It's very interesting.
No, that was very interesting. And I think that goes on nicely when talking about, things change and passion might change over time, or we grow. Because he talks about knowing when to quit. And I actually like this because he's quit things that he's done in the past, and he's just quit it, just cold turkey, just like that. And maybe it wasn't cold turkey. Maybe, you know, there was a build up to it, but he got to a point where he made a decision and was like, no, all right, cool, I'm quitting. And he uses a framework, which I loved. I love this. Are you thinking about quitting? Yes. The next question you ask himself, why are you thinking about quitting? It's just hard. Okay. Is the challenge worth the potential reward? Yes. Okay. Don't quit. No. Okay. Quit. If the challenge isn't worth the potential reward, quit. On the other way, why are you thinking about quitting? It sucks. Do you believe you could make it not suck? Do you believe you could start to enjoy the process? No, I've tried my best. Okay, quit. Yes, I believe I could make it not suck. Okay, is the effort it would take to make it not suck worth it? Is the effort that you have to put in to enjoy this worth it? Yes, it's worth it. Okay, continue. No, it's not worth it. Okay, quit.
Yeah.
And this framework was beautiful. I love this because it was just like, yeah, sometimes people just do things forever and just keep, and they're like, I forget the term where the sunken cost fallacy, I think it's called.
Okay, yeah, sunken loss fallacy.
Sunken loss fallacy.
Yeah.
You know, we think because we've done something for 5 years or 10 years that we've wasted 10 years if we quit it. But actually, that's the past. The past is the past. We are in the present. It doesn't matter. And yeah, I think that actually reminded me of that, is knowing when to quit. You know, I'm not saying go out here and like those questions were beautiful because is the challenge worth the potential reward? Yes. Okay, carry on, keep going. You know, don't give up. And no, it's not worth it. Okay, all right. You know, move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I've never struggled with that, with quitting, quitting, because you know as well, the word quit is a loaded word as well. Yeah. It sounds like a negative word, isn't it? Like it sounds negative. Oh, you're a quitter. Quitters never win. Winners never quit. All that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, but you get the point of what it is. And I think me personally, I feel like I always know when it's time to move on. You know, I've had businesses in the past, and I'm like, no, it's time to move on. You know, I've had jobs in the past, so like, it's just time to go. Literally, I remember one of the jobs I had, and we had an event, like a staff training day or something, somewhere in the city. And then I was walking back to where I was working at the time. And I was like, I'm done, man. It's time. I'm finished. Like, literally, I remember when I walked back, I was like, and it wasn't, nothing specifically happened, but it was just like, I'm just not here. I'm just not here, man. I'm done. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, I just kind of knew with myself, I was like, I'm not. And as well, I think, obviously, I didn't apply this framework at the time, but I just looked at my attitude and the way I was feeling compared to how my colleagues are feeling. I was like, I'm not even here for it. Like, I'm not motivated for it. I'm just out. I'm fully out. And I've always kind of known when it's time to stop. You know, when I think back on other jobs I've had at time. I mean, anyway, I could tell you loads of stories, but anyway, I've never struggled with that. You know? And I think it's that, you know, that he says here about when the less information we have, the more anxious it makes us. So a lot of kind of, what did he say here? Yeah, the limbic part of the brain where emotions such as anxiety and fear are generated. So it's like when you have less information, the limbic part of the brain is the part that kicks in basically. So a lot of people, they might be feeling like, oh, I want to start a business, or I want to stop what I'm doing and do something else. I want a career change. I want to leave this relationship. I want whatever it might be. But because of the lack of information, we kind of talk ourselves, we get scared. And again, it's a physiological thing, but we're not aware of it. We think we're making a rational decision, but we're not. So it kind of holds you back from taking that next step. But at the end of the day, you're gonna make it through whatever the situation is. You know, you're gonna make it through. And I feel like I've had that inner confidence where I just know that it's gonna be okay. You know, even with starting a business, people think that when you start a business, one thing I know, obviously, regardless of what business I start, if I wanted to, I'm very employable. I know that. So I always know, you know what? In the back of my mind, I'm like, well, if things ever don't go to plan, I could just go and get a job. Like, I know that. It's not like, so that's the kind of that's where I kind of draw my confidence from. Like, well, okay, you leave your job and you start this business. Worst comes to worst, it'll be better for the experience anyway. I'll be better for it. So anyway.
So yeah, that quitting framework I loved, and I don't want to dwell on it because I'm even looking at the time like how how it's
Yeah,
moving. This
yeah.
book's got so much that I would want to.
Let me raise one thing, because there was a thing that I liked a lot that I wanted
Okay,
to
go
talk
for it.
about. It was chapter 18. It was the skill stacking
Okay,
framework, or skill
yes, yes,
stacking.
yes,
And when
yes.
I read this, I was like, no, this is nuts. Like, this is sick.
Yeah,
So it's just like with the skill stacking, and it's funny because it's not controversial, but it contradicts again these common phrases that are just we take it as its gospel.
yeah,
You know, when they say like, oh, a jack of all trades but a king of none. You know,
yeah,
someone who's good at a lot of things but not excellent at anything in particular. You know,
yeah,
so you kind of look at that as a negative. You see what I mean? So even I'm thinking now, like, as like if I use a football example, James Milner, who plays for Liverpool, plays in a lot of. I think he can mostly play every position on the pitch. Like, he's a good centre midfielder. He's played up front. He can play in defence. He can play left back. Can play right back. So he's at the age of, like, I don't know how old he's, like 37, 38, as a footballer. He's still playing at Liverpool, still playing top level football, because he's got so many skills that he can apply to so many different areas on the pitch, that
yeah,
he hasn't expired as a footballer. He's still playing at a top team.
yeah,
Now, if we apply this to business now, or to your own personal development, skill stacking is, if you have a lot of different skills that apply to a lot of different areas, you'll become more employable. You're easier to work with. You know, with yourself, Tyler, for example. You know how to run a business. You're good with social media. You know how to do blog writing. You know how to do video, YouTube. There's so many different elements that you have that you can dip and choose. You may not be excellent or 10 out of 10 in some of those areas, but you're high in all of those areas. So skill stacking is something that it just, we have to kind of look internally and say, well, what am I good at? Learn, and don't be afraid to learn new things that can make you just, if you can edit, like, you can edit. So that's something else. If you're trying to do a new venture, you don't have to go and pay for someone to do the editing. You can do the editing. You can also train someone to do the editing, as opposed to training someone else, outsourcing that. So yeah,
yeah.
skill stacking. I mean, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I loved it. And I mean, he says skill stacking, being in the top 10% of multiple skills rather than the top 1% of one. And I think the point I took from this as well is time moves on and things moves on, things change. You could
Yeah,
be fantastic at one skill. So let's say
yeah,
Instagram marketing, for example, and then in 5 or 10 years, Instagram is dead. Maybe
yeah, yeah,
Instagram
yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah.
taken over by TikTok and whatever. Do you know what I mean? So having multiple skills in lots of different areas means that you'll always stay, I guess I don't relevant, for lack of a better word, but
Mm,
you always
mm.
stay, able to do something because you've got multiple skills. And I believe in that, and I live it. I do my best to learn as many different skills as possible. I'm always learning, and I think he's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I think
same.
he's right.
I think it's something, definitely, like, if you're watching this, it's not to say that you're necessarily going to use all of the skills all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just to say that you can apply them as and when needed.
Yeah,
So, if I look at myself from, like, a business and coaching perspective, I can coach a multitude of sports. Maybe not. I'm not the best coach, maybe at this sport or that sport, but I can, if I've got a football coach that's let me down for a session and I can't get cover, I can go and deliver that session, at least
yeah,
to the bare minimum. Or if I need to speak to a coach, I'm trying to hire a coach, I know what to look for in a coach,
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever it might be. So, relevant to your industry, what skill, when you're kind of looking at what skills or how to improve and level up in the amount of skills you have, look at what skills you have in your industry. What skills do people usually have? And then, given that most people have these skills, what new skills could you learn that will give you the valuable edge over others within your industry? Those are good ways. So you're looking around and saying, like, okay, if you work in media and TV, what skills do you need that other people don't have? What do you need to learn to kind of give you that edge, that you can, when the question is raised, you're the one who can say, oh, you know what, I've got the answer to that.
yeah,
Yeah, oh, that's because of that, whatnot. So, continuous learning and continuous growth, you know?
yeah. 100%, man. Let's move on to one term that I loved, because it's something that I've always known, and I've never had a phrase for it. I've never known the words to use, but I've always known this, and I love the fact that he puts a name to it, and that is
Mm.
invisible PR.
Okay.
So invisible PR, I love this because it's all about you as a person and how you as a person carry yourself in everyday life, in all in your job, in your family, with your friends, and you're walking, talking, promoting yourself all the time. Whether you make a comment on an Instagram post or a Facebook
Yeah.
page, like someone's seeing that and they're making a judgment on you based on that. Which is one of the reasons why I love, well, I say love, I'm very proud to 99% of the time stick to my word. Or even 99.9%. Let's
Point nine 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 nine.
Yeah, just sticking to my word, because I know that if I let someone down, maybe in the future, they might not want to ask me again to help them or to go on this great opportunity, etc. And he's actually talked about this, I think, in some of his Instagram snippets. But a woman in his company who one day someone cut themselves and she was so compassionate about it. She ran to the shop, she bought the plaster and whatever was needed to help the person that had cut themselves and help them out. When it came years later for her being hired, this was used as a way of, her character, showing that she's a compassionate and caring person. This was part of the decision that she got the promotion. Of course, she knew how to do the job, etc. as well. But the fact that she did this act of service and she was caring towards her colleagues and whatnot, it meant that he had the courage and confidence to hire her into that next position. Had she not done that, I'm not saying she wouldn't have got the job, but this just showed him that she was, that type of person that he wanted in that role. And I think it's so important to just carry yourself how you want to be, seen, because people will make judgments of you based on any little thing that you do.
Yeah, no, it's essentially carrying yourself like a brand in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like your brand, you're Tyler. When people see you, they see Tyler, but they also see Love and Life Co. They see Entrepreneur Club Global. Do you see what I mean? So, same goes to myself, and we should all carry us. And you're representing your family as well. Do you know what I mean? You're representing so much. So, it's about carrying yourself, how you carry yourself. And again, because like when he's talking about that lady that when I got the plaster, he knows the character of that person. So he knows that if I put this lady in this position, we know what her character is. The skills she can learn, she can learn, she can go on training, she can be mentored, she can and obviously she's got a good level of skill to even be recognized for that position in the first place. So that's it's a very important thing, and I agree with it. And I that's why I think we all have that responsibility to carry yourself as your best self as much as you can. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So man.
No, and I think off the back of that, he talks about being self-aware, because invisible PR, if you're someone that lets someone down, that, or if you don't know that, you should know that. And if you, there's a quote about reading books. I'm going to see if I can, here we go. You can read as many books as you like, but if you can't read yourself, you'll never learn anything. And that was beautiful. But it's like, you have to be self-aware. You have to learn about yourself, you have to learn about yourself in order to grow. That's it.
I can't really add on to that, man. It's true. It's self-awareness and being real with yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's that, and I think maybe it comes with age.
Yeah.
And it comes with, because you kind of sometimes, and he talks about it, putting yourself in binary boxes. That's one of the previous chapters. And it's like, you think, all right, well, I'm this. You look at yourself and, well, I'm this, this, and this. So therefore, I have to be this way, and I have to react in this way, and I have to think this way, and I have to do this and go to this environment. We kind of put ourselves in these boxes. But when you're self-aware, you're like, well, just because I am who I am doesn't mean I have to go this way and do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Just because I'm a male from Labatt Grove, black male from Labatt Grove, doesn't mean I have to do this.
Yeah,
I could do something else. You know what I mean? We don't put these limits, and that's what it is. We put limits on ourselves, and you kind of follow, and then it all ties in together. If you're following celebrity culture, well, this is what such and such thinks. So I should think that because he looks like me, or this is what such and such said. Do you know what I mean? So it's about putting yourself in those binary boxes. But if you're self-aware, you know yourself, and it's self-discovery at the end of the time. So like this book, I really enjoyed reading this book. The chapters, I mean, we haven't touched on. There's so much I think that you can learn from this book, and also it's also good because it reaffirms a lot. And I think I mean, we'll go into the all that kind of stuff later, but it's such an easy read.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's such an easy read. I was reading like 30, 40 pages in a go, which easily without even, and I could have read more. I could have finished this in a weekend. And this may be the first book that I felt like, right, I could have actually read this whole book this weekend.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah. Let's move on. So everyone buys books, few ever read them. Everyone wants growth, few accept pain. Everyone wants to be happier, few ever change. And this was just another quote I wanted to add. Intention is nothing without action, but action is nothing without intention. Progress happens when your intentions and actions become the same thing. This book, I think one of the best things that I love about this book was, after every chapter or every key point, he has a nice strong quote to affirm that point. And that was one that I loved because we all have the intention or to do something. We might think, oh yeah, I want to start this, I want to start that, I want to get fitter, I want to get healthier. But the thought alone isn't good enough. We need the action. But the action of just being healthier and fitter without the actual intention of it, we can lose motivation, we can lose track. I mean, they're so intertwined. It's just, beautiful.
I think that part is from chapter 15 when he's speaking about his assistant. I think it's funny as well. The chapter names were quite funny in this. My assistant can't speak to me on Mondays, which he didn't actually explain why. He labeled it in the chapter, thing, which was funny. I don't know, but anyway.
No, I think every Monday she would come in.
She's coming on Monday, yes, about the gym, So he was like his assistant. She's like, oh yeah, Steve, I want to join the gym. I'm going to join the gym, but then it speaks about willpower, and basically she never did. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy, which essentially you tell yourself something and it becomes true. And then she's like, she said, the willpower. And it led to willpower depletion, which is like, if you believe your willpower is depleting, then it is. But if you believe your willpower isn't depleting, then it's not, it's self-fulfilling prophecy. So man, that chapter alone was a good chapter where it's kind of talking about, giving ourselves targets to hit, but then not really even trying to hit them. Or trying to we want to do, people that, again, when we talk about entrepreneurial journeys, there's some people that they just want to be an entrepreneur. They don't actually want to be one. They just want to talk about it, and then they might give you their excuses, because of this or the economy or the government, whatever it might be, my dog, my cat. You can give a million excuses. You see what I mean? So it's, and that was a good chapter. And I think the whole thing about self-fulfilling prophecy is also, people from this area don't succeed. People that look like this don't succeed. If you believe that, it becomes true. But also, if you don't believe it, it also becomes true. It becomes untrue. Sorry. So, again, wrapped up nicely. And it's like he ties up in a nice bow at the end of the chapter with a hard statement that kind of just gets it all across. Brings it all together, ties it all up.
Yeah. Listen, that time has flown, man. We got to go on to our difficulty rating and our star rating. We could. There's just talking now. It's like we actually haven't even talked about a lot of things. So this is definitely a book that I'd recommend. I think you can echo that point there. The link is in the description box, as always. But difficulty rating, I believe I am first. This book was a nice, easy read for me. I'd give it, a 1 out of 5. It was nice, free flowing. There wasn't really any complicated words. It was a very, very easy read for me. What about yourself? Difficulty rating?
Same difficult rating. I'll give it a 1 because, again, very simple. There was a lot of the images were good. The graphics or the kind of diagrams, were really good. And then also there were some pages where it was just like a big bold statement and whatnot. But yeah, I found it really, like I said, there was one weekend when I read like 30, 40 pages, and I could have, only because I had something to do, but I could have literally just read the whole book.
Yeah.
On that week. I could have finished it then. So yeah,
Yeah.
really good, really good. One.
Yeah. Star rating. Do you know what? I've been going back and forth. With this. And I'm gonna go in the middle of my back and forth. So I was deliberating between a 4 and a 4.5. And I think this conversation has swayed me closer to the higher end, but I don't want it to sway me too much. So I'm going for a 4.25 with this. And I think the reasons why it's high is because it's a great book. And a lot of the stuff in this book, for me personally, were more reminders. There was a lot of reminders in this book to maybe a lot of things that I already know, apart from like, the statistics and things to back up things. But a lot of this book was more of a reminder. And when I read the books, one of the things I like to do generally is take something away that I can implement. And I can't think of anything specific that I will implement because of this book. So, for example, our book, the last month, the time blocking was one thing that I took away. Okay, I'm going to implement from this book. I can't think of anything specific that me personally I'm going to take away. I'm sure lots of people that read it can and will take away things, but me personally, yeah. What do you think? What's yours?
For me, I give this book a strong 4.5. No question, no shadow of a doubt regarding that. I think, funny enough, thinking from your metrics that you use, I think the skill stacking was quite an enlightening moment. Like I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And like, I think what I liked as well is that it kind of goes against, this book goes against like your kind of the natural consensus that we kind of buy into, because it's just, like, oh, you should be married by this age and you should have done this by that age. He definitely pushes back against that. And then, I just see Bartlett as an individual, from the individual he puts across on, I haven't watched any of his episodes. I don't really watch Dragon's Den anymore, but I'm sure he comes across well on that. It's much more insightful on the podcast when I listen to that or watch that, so as a character, and his journey as well, he's definitely seen both sides of the coin. He's from a humble beginning, we didn't even really speak too much about his family life, but he was kicked out of the house at a young age, literally built himself up, man, built an amazing business. And then again, as an inspiration, in the sense of like, he listed his company, became a millionaire, like literally on that. And then he got to the point where he's like, through the quitting, he sold his company and just said, I've got this as far as I can get this. I need to pass this over because of, So no ego, the ego taken out of that. And then even he talks a little bit about his struggles in like romance and love and stuff like that. So yeah, man, really, really deep book, man. 4.5 all day.
Wicked. Okay, next month's book, we have So Good They Can't Ignore You. And in fact, this might be a good segue from the Stephen Bartlett book, because it says, why skills trump passion in the quest for work you love. So we're talking about skill stacking there. This, seems like it could be a good follow on from that point. So yeah, subscribe. We will be dropping this in a month's time on the first Friday of the month. Our books drop. Like, watch whatever videos on the screen. I'm sure you will get some gems, some diamonds, some nuggets, and have a great rest of the day, week, month, year, life. Blessings.